So today we'll be painting in my sketchbook, not this sketchbook. I just want to show some of the sketches that I did in preparation for the painting. But I had this idea of like redoing my channel banner right now. Hopefully by the time this video posts, it will be changed. But for the year of 2023, it was really simple. But for 2024, I really want to do something that more encapsulates what I like to focus on with my artwork. So that's like fantasy, some like magical elements, and doing it in a medium I love, which is acrylic gouache. I will be using Holbein Acrylic Gouache, a set of primaries, and then I got some new colors over the holidays, so I'm excited to try those out. But first I want to show some of the sketches I have for this concept. So I was really thinking about like kind of like a fantasy like workplace of like an artist in this fantasy world and how their desk would look. But originally I was just gonna do my regular desk setup and kind of just like paint like my various plants and then like my whole like sketchbook setup and my computer and then my desk. But then I was just like, it's kind of boring. Well, I wouldn't say it's like exactly boring. It's just something, I just want to do something more with it. I feel like I could kind of elevate it to a different level, and I've been really wanting to focus on more like fantasy concepts and really telling more of a story with my artwork. So I did these thumbnails first that were just on my desk and just figuring out the dimensions that I wanted to do, since channel banners are more of a horizontal layout. So I have these with a couple of notes, but then like I said, I changed it into more of a fantasy concept. So this is something that I just did last night and I like this a lot more. It's a lot more interesting to me and I'm a lot more excited about it. I have like this whole like painting setup, like a mortar and pestle, because I was imagining maybe this artist like creates their own paints. They have a whole like drawer system of paints. They have an easel set up. They have like brushes hanging on the wall, maybe some like various like herbs, flowers that they use to like grind up and make those paints with the mortar and pestle, and then just some like leftover food scraps. I really wanted this space to be kind of messy and like this constant like workflow area for this artist who's trying to capture what I think will be like fairies or like sprites of some sort that will be hidden throughout this room maybe, or just like one hidden in these branches outside. So but yeah, I'm really excited with this composition. I think it could be a lot of fun. So I'm just gonna spend like the next hour or so sketching it out larger onto a different sketchbook. So this is a sketchbook, or not really a sketchbook, more like a painting book that I'll be using for the year of 2024 and maybe past that, because I'm really not trying to like rush through the sketchbook. It's really going to be a place just for me to like keep my love of traditional painting alive and to use my gouache paints. So I'm not too pressed to put any sort of deadline on this. Just like, it's just going to be like a space where I could just like have fun and paint. And I unfortunately can't share a link to this sketchbook because my boyfriend Steven actually made this sketchbook for me. He found it all himself and made the cover and selected the papers. He made this one and this like matching one, and I've been like waiting to use them once the new year starts. So yeah, he made both of these books based off of my characters, Strawberry Saw and Blueberry Bill, thus the red and the blue theme and like the cowboy theme. And yeah, they're just really lovely books and I can't wait to use them. This one specifically has a Stonehenge Fawn paper, so that's going to be really fun to have like this toned paper to paint on top of, as well as Strathmore printmaking paper. So they should both handle like wet medium pretty well. So I'm really excited for that and I can't wait to start using it today to paint. Hopefully I'll do like some sort of like bookbinding video this year. I actually met my partner in a bookbinding class, so I still have a little bit of the skills. I may have to like ask him to teach me a couple things again, but yeah, that could be really fun. And then we can all make our own sketchbooks. Before we start the painting, most of the work I do for this channel and my art couldn't happen without the support of companies like Flexispot, who are the sponsors of today's video. They are a continuous supporter of my channel and the literal physical support of my art practice and daily work routine. Their standing desk has been the backdrop for many of my painting sessions and sketchbook tours, and I think one of my favorite things about Flexispot's desks is their durability and easy to clean surface. I don't know about you, but I tend to be a little bit messy with my paints and happen when I'm working on things, but I've always been able to wipe off excess smudges, leaving my desk neat and clean for filming future videos. I also don't have to worry about my paint water or coffee spilling due to the controlled movement of the desk. The lifting capabilities of the desk gets me out of my chair for a more sustainable and healthy work practice, and Flexispot's ergonomic office chair keeps my back supported while sitting. We are not having a shrimp posture in 2024, guys. We're working on this. Once again, I can attest to the durability and quality of this desk since I've had this desk for almost a year now, and it hasn't slowed down at all, or I haven't encountered any issues with lifting and lowering. I have the E1 standing desk, and last year Flexispot was generous enough to gift me their E7 standing desk, which I gave to my mom, who also works at home. Flexispot provides all kinds of standing desks and ergonomic chairs to meet your demands, so if you want a premium standing desk for daily use, you can check their E7 Pro C frame. But if you're on a more limited budget, you can choose the E2 model, which is about $150 USD, and you can get the basic standing function. You can use my promo code YTB15, that's YTB15, for 10% off on orders over $500. Thank you so much to Flexispot for continuing to support the channel, and thank you to viewers like you who continue to watch and support my content so I can get more sponsors like this. Now, back to the video. During the sketching process, as I've showed before, I initially intended for this to be a depiction of my actual desk setup that would further be used for a new channel banner. I really needed to update my banner for the new year to match the content that I want to make for this year. So I ended up going with a more horizontal aspect ratio, kind of aiding more in that intention, as well as the concept of what I was depicting. My desk is very horizontal, so it makes sense to do a very horizontal composition. I feel like this YouTube channel is kind of a workspace of some sort, like a place of ideating, learning, practicing, or at least I hope it is, and just overall just enjoying the process of making art and sharing it with you. And after my first year of figuring out my content and getting to know my audience, aka you, I learned that you guys also use my videos a lot in the background as motivation while you work on your own artwork. So even more so, this channel has become, and I hope it continues to be, a positive and comfy space to create and share our ideas. And I am hoping to expand this more with opening a Discord soon, so there can actually be a back and forth dialogue. But also know that I really want to delve into my own stories and my fantasy interests and goals that I have for 2024, focusing more on my OCs and building fantastical environments. So I came up with the idea of warping my contemporary real world workplace with my computer and like keyboard and all my modern technology, and transforming it into the workplace of a painter in a world with like fairies and magic and, you know, like a fantasy world, and with a strong emphasis on nature. So I ended up removing my computer in exchange for an easel, palette, mortar and pestle, lots of books, and adding more naturalistic elements, the tree branches outside the window. And that's what I decided to sketch for the foundation of this painting. And looking back to this sketch, I think I could have leaned a bit more into the magical aspect, maybe adding some like potions or something, but I can always go back and expand on this idea. I knew lighting and color was going to be really important to this piece and the mood I wanted to achieve, especially since it'd be like a significant part of the aesthetics of my channel. Sort of important, so I spent a little bit more time on this part. And I just know that you can portray so much mood and emotion through color, so it was really important to nail this part down in the whole process. So I wanted it to be a daytime piece and had the idea of the window providing all of the lighting for the environment and illuminating the space, but I was stuck between a more yellow morning feeling and a redder, more dramatic evening color palette. I personally am a sucker for like a pinky red green combo. It has to be one of my favorite complementary color scheme pairs, although blue and orange are a really close second, like the piece that I did last week. But after some contemplation and pestering my boyfriend about it, he pointed out that the content of my channel matches more with the yellow morning color palette, since my videos have more of a comfier, brighter, and friendlier vibe rather than like this dramatic red warm feeling. So, and I thought he was so right. Both color palettes worked, but the intention of this being my channel banner and having to match the content that I produce and plan to produce, it just naturally leaned more towards the brighter side. Before I really got into the actual painting process, I wanted to take some time to look at a lot of artists that I was thinking about with this specific color palette and scene and subject matter. And one thing that has been really helping me idea-wise and improving my art is studying and getting some inspiration from artists that have already reached the same vibe that I want with my artwork and their skill level. And I just find it really useful to look at their work and see what they're doing and how I can change it and implement it into my own work. Picking and choosing aspects from multiple different artists has helped me develop and continue to develop my style and refine more of my illustration ideas and skills. For this project, I was specifically looking at 3 artists. So the first artist would be Claire Keane. So after years of yearning for this book, I finally own the Art of Tangled book, and Claire Keane's illustrations for Rapunzel, the Tower, and other paintings heavily inspired the sketch and the coloring process of this painting. The warmth of the palettes and the messy and gestureful interiors is something I really admire about her work, and I wanted to try and hint at a bit of that through this piece. One of the other few art books in my possession is Claire Wendling's Forget-Me-Not art book. It's like a series of drawings and sketches. I've had this since high school and have been a fan of her work for years, and her fantastical subject matter, specifically fairies, insects, and animal drawings, are so beautiful. She's one of the best figurative artists in my opinion, and her intentional detail and line quality is impeccable. I really want to emulate her whimsical imagery and knowledge of form throughout her drawings. And then the last artist, I just found this artist on YouTube. As I was getting ready to paint this scene, I was trying to brush up on my gouache skills for this painting, and I discovered Allison Aletha and their amazing gouache environment illustrations and the wealth of knowledge on their channel. I really admired their attention and intentionality with detail, giving each aspect of the illustration a purpose within the story you're trying to create. Allison's storytelling skills and pure technical painting skills are amazing. I can't wait to binge more of their channel, and yeah, so please go check out their channel. But yeah, a lot of their work was very helpful in figuring out how I was going to actually paint this piece. So during the painting process of the piece, I really wanted to maintain the bright light of the window and the saturation of the oranges and yellows in the piece, so I ended up taking a very slow and careful approach to laying down the base colors. I think I was also kind of scared for some reason because I hadn't painted with gouache and created a whole scene in such a long time, but deliberately making some areas darker, especially in the corners and sides of the piece, to sort of vignette the painting. Overall, it was really important to just keep that window really bright and all the values within it very light as well. I think I really like how subtle I painted the tree branches. And like I said, I hadn't painted with gouache in a couple weeks, so I was a bit more hesitant in what I was painting and what hues to use in what areas, and that's when my digital color guide was super useful to have throughout the process. And I highly recommend doing quick color mock-ups before working on more complicated pieces, even if they are traditional. As I began developing the painting more, the color palette was really making the piece what it was. I mainly used, I think, orange, green, yellow, and a bit of pink to paint this environment, and maybe just a tiny bit of blue in some areas. I think I saved some pops of blue for the very end as sort of an accent color and to draw focus to certain areas. I think I tend to like to do kind of more a limited palette in a lot of my pieces and just have one accent color to bring focus or attention to one area, and it's kind of a color palette hack, but it makes sense. Even though I had some reference photos of fantasy desk and some detail inspiration from my favorite artists, I think I still found it rather difficult to render things out, but that may have been due to the size of this painting and maybe just not having the best references. Multiple times as I reached the final stretch of this piece, I contemplated just scanning it and rendering it out digitally so I could get all of those little details. And it made me think of an environment piece I think I made back in 2021 while I was still in school. That reminds me a lot of this one, a living space with a bunch of small objects, and I was really able to tighten a lot more things up because of the ability to zoom in with digital art. So I know I'm able to render things out to a more polished degree, but I think because of the traditional aspect and not necessarily feeling as confident with using a tiny brush to paint things out, I think that kind of scared me away from rendering things out more and knowing what to render. And I think that's a really important question to ask yourself while you're working on a piece, like what areas to render out, what areas to leave a little less refined. So when making a piece, I think it's always a good idea to have a focal point and direction with what you're doing, so that you know which area you need to fully render out and other areas that you can leave slightly less defined or fuzzier. This both saves you time and adds depth to your piece. More rendered aspects of a piece tend to pop out in our mind and come to the front, while fuzzier, less defined shapes tend to fall to the back of the piece. And I realized that I needed the painting in this environment, like the painting within the painting. I know, sort of meta. I needed that painting to be the focal point because the artwork would bring so much more context and visual storytelling to why there are paint pots, a palette, books about fairies on the desk, and an emphasis on nature. This pops up questions about what is this artist interested in painting? What does the subject matter of the painting tell us about the character that painted it? All these questions start to pop up, and it starts to build more of that world and that environment and making it much more a lot more interesting in character and in design. And this year, I really want to delve more into character-based work and pieces like this, where it makes me think of questions that help me through a design or a concept. Those questions are really important to storytelling and building a world. After I fully rendered out a more finished painting within the painting, I felt like the piece instantly came together in my mind, it finally made sense. There's still so many things I would change with this piece, but I think having that focal point and making that purposeful, that area of interest that gives so much more context to this environment, and it just gave the piece so much more purpose and intention. From a storytelling aspect, I think it would be more impactful that, since this is a fantasy world, like I said, if I added some potion bottles or something, some more magical elements to the desk, maybe an enchanted item of some sort, or magical glowing paint or something like that. I don't know. Just spitballing here, but I also wanted to add a telescope of some sort, but I wasn't sure how I wanted to position it, and I kind of had the idea too late into the painting. But I was thinking this artist studies fairies, so maybe they have a telescope positioned out their window so that they can maybe catch a glimpse of one. I think it also could have been cool to paint a backpack or satchel of some sort positioned on the desk, maybe spilling with the contents of the painter's recent sketches of landscapes to kind of give a background of a hint of what the outside world looks like, or maybe some foraged items like mushrooms or something, and just describe a lot more about the character through the style of the bag and its contents. Overall, I really love the colors and the lighting of the piece. I think that's my favorite part of this whole thing. The composition turned out well for my intentions. I definitely could have pushed the magical fairy concept a little more and really lean into the fantasy element, but it successfully works as an appealing channel banner, in my opinion. And I think it accurately matches the friendly, artsy vibes of my videos, and I hope it inspires me to continue to make that content for 2024. I just added a bit of text and made some color edits digitally, and it's now the channel banner of my dreams. And it was a great painting to start the sketchbook. I was worried I was gonna be a bit rusty, but I think it turned out well, and I can't wait to fill the sketchbook with more paintings this year and maybe next year if I'm still working in it. Big shout out again to Steve for making these for me. Make sure to go follow him on Instagram for some more art and bookbinding content. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you to Flexispot for sponsoring this video. And a reminder to check out the links below and use my code YTB15 for 10% off an order of $500 or more. Like and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more art content like this. I think I might have a completed sketchbook tour coming out sometime towards the end of January, so make sure to have notifications on and to keep an eye out for that. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Sketches of Shay to see more of my art and sketchbook. I started to post daily doodles to my Instagram stories as well, some that I haven't shown on here, so make sure to go check that out too. And update on opening my Patreon. I'm shooting for like a February launch, so it'll just be one tier and it'll give you access to a Discord. Super cool. Still working on it, but it's coming soon. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Go paint in your sketchbook and have an awesome day. All right.